Are you ready?
Activate.
Sequence start 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, ignition.
Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Shadows in the Dark. Sorry about a little bit of a late start there. We were having a little bit of a questionable kind of thing going on the other network that hopefully we'll get situated. So tonight, unfortunately, we are only broadcasting right here on the Shadows in the Dark site. So we'll get it figured out. We will get it figured out. But anyway, we got a great show planned tonight. We're going to be welcoming our guest, Tim Link, who is an animal communicator here in about 15 minutes or so. This is going to be a very interesting show. Tim is not, I guess probably wouldn't say he is a animal psychic. He is he communicates with animals telepathically, so this should be very, very interesting show. But now, one thing before we get to the show, like I said, he's going to be on here in about 10-15 minutes. We're going to one of the things I want to announce is we have an exact date for the launch of the new website. And sorry, I'm just typing here in the chat room right quick. But yeah, we are very excited about the new website, and it's going to be great. We're going to launch that. The exact date, let me get it here in front of me, is July the 2nd. So that is not next Thursday, but the Thursday after that. So look forward to that. So on Thursday, I'm not going to say if it's going to be morning, afternoon, or whatever the case may be, but it will go live on that day. So July the 2nd will be the launch of Shadows in the Dark's new website. So look forward to that. You'll just go to the website on that day at some time, and it'll be completely different. And I really feel that you all will like it for sure. Now, also, once we get that website launched, SM Radio International, which is also our new radio network, we will be launching that soon afterwards. Also, Mysteries Magazine's new website as well. So we're looking forward to all that. Great new websites. You're really, really going to like these. I really think they're going to be great. Well, I tell you what, let's do a few news stories here before we welcome our guest on. Because this is going to be a great show tonight, and I'm really looking forward to it. So here we go, a few news stories. First, a West Virginia couple got an unexpected souvenir from the demolition of the Pomeroy Mason Bridge when a piece of it landed in their spare bedroom. When workers imploded the top half of the pier Wednesday, the blast sent a football-sized piece through the siding of Stephen Kelly Stewart's house in Mason. Kelly Stewart said the piece landed in a beanbag chair and missed her by a few feet. She said she was standing in the room filming the demolition when it happened. The pier of West Virginia's side of the Ohio River was the last major remnant of the bridge that linked Mason with Pomeroy, Ohio. A new bridge opened in December. Boy, that would be something else. Want to be sitting there in your in your bedroom, all of a sudden a football-sized piece of a bridge comes flying through your house. Well, Dina Smith and her family were at King's Dominion when they saw a black floating ring in the sky. Now, King's Dominion, if I'm not mistaken, is up in Maryland, I believe. King's Dominion says the ring is smoke from a ride called Volcano. UFO investigator Cameron Pack agreed. Pack said he'd be convinced it was just smoke if it weren't for pictures of a similar sighting taking some time in the 1950s. Smith says she's positive it wasn't smoke. Pack says he plans to follow up with King's Dominion. Smith thinks his investigation could turn up something. So interesting there. Here we go. How about, I thought this was a funny story. I thought I definitely wanted to do this as well because I know we have quite a few listeners that are down in Florida. So if you were in Florida and you are a state worker, then you probably are aware of this. A Florida city is cleaning up with a new dress code that requires city workers to wear underwear and use deodorant. Now, I wasn't aware that was a problem. The city council in Brooksville, north of Tampa, recently approved a dress code that instructs employees to observe strict personal hygiene. It also prohibits exposed underwear, clothing with foul language, sexually provocative clothes, and piercings anywhere except the ears. Repeat offenders can be fired. The City Council approved the dress code 4-1 as part of a wider effort to update existing policies and ordinances. The one vote in opposition came from the mayor. He said the underwear etiquette takes away from freedom of choice. So there you go. Well, we got a mayor who is all for, I guess, not wearing any underwear. I'm sorry, that was just a funny story. I thought it'd be a great short to share with you guys. And, of course, I'm a little tongue-tied tonight, too. All right, our last news story of the day, like I said, we only had a few here, deals with Stonehenge. I'm sure we're all familiar with the famous Stonehenge. Well, the secret of Stonehenge has been solved. The mysterious circle of large stones in southern England was a burial ground for almost 5 centuries, and it probably holds the remains of a family that long ruled the area, new research concludes. Based on the radiocarbon dating of cremated bones up to 5,000 years old, researchers with the Stonehenge Riverside Archaeological Project said they are convinced that the area was built and grew as a domain of the ancestors. The finding marks a major rethinking of Stonehenge, which in the past was believed to be a burial site for only a century. A combination of the radiocarbon dating, excavations nearby that have revealed a once thriving domain of the living, and the fact that the number of cremated remains appeared to grow over a 500-year period convinced researchers that the site was used for a long time and most likely was a burial ground for one ruling family. Parker Pearson said the discovery of a mace head, an ancient symbol of authority in England that still serves that function in the House of Commons, supports the theory that it was the province of a ruling family. He said family members for as many as 30 to 40 generations were buried there, with each generation having more members. The team also excavated homes nearby a Durrington walls, which they said were especially well preserved and appeared to be seasonal dwellings related to Stonehenge. The research was supported by the National Geographic Society, which features Stonehenge in the June edition of its magazine. The latest Stonehenge research marked the first radiocarbon dating of cremation remains there. The burials dated were excavated in the 1950s and have been kept at the nearby Salisbury Museum. In the 1920s, an additional 49 cremation burials were dug up at Stonehenge, but all were reburied because they were thought to be of no significant value. As many as 240 people were buried in Stonehenge, the researchers said. So there you go, a little bit on Stonehenge. I guess, as we move forward, some of the thoughts of it, what exactly it served. It's always been a question on a lot of us, but I tell you what, we're going to have a great show tonight. Like I said, we are going to be talking with Tim Link tonight about his ability to communicate with animals telepathically, and also he's wrote a book on this called Wagging Tails. Every Animal Has a Tale, Conversations with Our Animal Friends. It's a very interesting book. So we'll be back in a moment with our guest, Tim Link.
Visit www.shadowsinthedarkradio.com today to sign up for our free newsletter, join as a member of our forum, or browse our online store where you can find books, CDs, and DVDs, like a signed copy of The President's Vampire by Robert Damon Schneck, or the complete works of Dr. Gary Frick for only $20. That's 4 books signed by Dr. Frick that carry a great message. You will also find downloadable products like Mysteries Magazine or the Donald Kehoe interviews, DVDs featuring Charlie Carlson and Mr. Lobo. So go to www.shadowsinthedarkradio.com today and be a part of the show.
It's coming. Don't miss it. The Great Lakes Paranormal Conference, July 24th, 25th, and 26th on Minnesota's historic Iron Range. You'll get to meet and investigate with some of the top paranormal investigators in the field today. The original legend tripper himself, Chad Lewis, and from the hit movies Children of the Grave and Spooked, Keith Age, and from the hit show Ghost Hunters and Ghost Hunters International, Brian Harnois. Just to name a few of the great celebrities you will meet and investigate with. And you will also investigate one of the most active places in the world, the birthplace of the modern NHL, the old recreation building in Hockeytown, USA, Eveleth, Minnesota, home of the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame, plus speaker events at the historic Coates Plaza in Virginia, Minnesota, and meet the official voice of the convention from Spooks R Us, Scotty and Wayne. And don't miss the Great Lakes Paranormal Conference, July 24th, 25th, 26th. Tickets are extremely limited, so go to www.darkplainsradio.com to order your tickets today. Again, the address to go to is www.darkplainsradio.com to get your tickets today.
Tim Link is a practicing animal communicator. As part of his passion for helping animals, Tim has also mastered Reiki, and I hope I say that right, and an ancient art of energy healing, which he uses on animals. Tim, I hope I did pronounce that right. I think I actually mispronounced it.
No, it's pretty close. Reiki energy healing.
There it is. You know, as many times as I've seen that word, I always have trouble with it. But there we go. You corrected it, so that's that's good. But Tim, welcome to the show, and it's a pleasure having you on tonight.
Well, thanks for having me on. I look forward to the opportunity and chatting a little bit about what I do and a little bit about the book, Wagging Tails.
Yes, and there's some great stuff in it, and I am glad that we're going to get to talk about this. And everyone, this is a thing that a lot of people have as pets, whether it's a horse, a lizard, a cat, or a dog. And you really, being an animal communicator, which we're going to get into exactly what that is, it can really relate to a lot of people. Because, I don't know, there's probably the majority of households has some type of animal in the house or outside of the house as a pet.
Well, definitely so. They used to say that each household should have 2.5 kids, and I think nowadays each household should at least have 2.5 animals. And if you know some of the people I know, that 2.5 gets another 0 added to it if you're not careful.
Well, when I grew up, we had 12 dogs.
Wow.
So I made sure that was covered for some people, and I have the kids part covered as I have 4 kids. So
doing your share to save the statistics of America.
That's right. That's right. But well, I tell you what, animal communicator. Can you tell us what that is? Because from my understanding, this isn't really, say, an animal psychic I've seen that term quite a bit. This is something different. Am I thinking on the right line there?
Well, an animal communicator is someone that can connect and understand the animals at perhaps a deeper level than most people can. And what I mean by that is, I'm able to connect with the animal, and they're able to share with me information, and they share that information in the form of words, colors, pictures, feelings, emotions, the whole gamut of things that we go through as humans, our animals go through as well, and that's how they communicate back to me. And in return, I can share to the animals, with the animals, things that you want, things that you need in your life that will make your life better simply by the animal doing it. So what I try to accomplish is form the best connection possible and the best relationship possible between you and your pets and you and the animals, giving you a deep understanding of where they're at in their life and what they need from you. And in return, we do a lot of consulting to determine, okay, based on this information that the animal's sharing with me, well, what does that mean? What can we do with that? And how can we make that best relationship possible? And so it's a little bit different. It has a lot of words. You hear words like animal communicator or animal whisperer. I don't really necessarily consider myself a psychic because I'm not predicting the future. The dog unfortunately can't give me the winning lottery numbers as much as I try to ask. They don't seem to do that. But what they are doing is giving me an understanding of how they feel, what they're thinking, what's going on, why has there been some changes in behavior, what are you doing that's impacting their lives both positively and negatively, and help you get a better understanding of how to have the best pet possible.
Right, and there, unfortunately, there are some who don't, take in mind the care for their pet. But many people, really want to care for their pet, and make sure they're comfortable, they have a good life, and this is a way, reading some of the book and reading some off your website is definitely something that you're, are an advocate for. Is treating pets the way they want to be treated, which, this way you get to know them and what are their likes and dislikes, and, what, I think I was reading something about, what around the house is making them have allergies, things like that.
Exactly. They're a huge part of our lives. They're part of the family. They're a real heart connection for us. They come into our lives for a reason and purpose, and they give you that unconditional love. And we always, as pet lovers, we want to understand and we want to be able to do the best we possibly can for our pets. And so that's what I try to help do is help you build that bond, build that connection at an even deeper level, have you understand that, there are things that are going on physically or mentally or emotionally within the animal that maybe you can do to make some changes in your life or changes in the household to make their lives better. And in return, if they're doing things that bother you, that things that you don't need them to do, we help them better understand what they do need to do and why it's going to be a good thing for them.
Now, I want to hear a little bit about how exactly you realized you had this ability. I know you went to a seminar with your wife in February 2004, and this is where you realized that you could communicate with animals.
Exactly. We went to just a one-day little workshop where we spent a majority of the time just working on how do you calm the mind, how do you calm the soul. So what I mean by that is, some people will go into their meditation time to sort of quiet their mind and get rid of all the craziness that we think about all the time, all the little sticky notes that we put everywhere, remind us what we have to do each and every hour of the day. So we work on clearing that out. And some people use a meditation, some will use prayer work, some, whatever method it is, but it's really getting down to your center of your being, getting in the absolute quiet zone, and lining yourself up, opening your heart and opening your mind to be able to accept whatever it is you receive. And that's the biggest thing you have to do when you start to consider communicating with your animals at a much deeper level. And then the latter part of the workshop, there was about 12 people in the workshop, and each of them brought in pictures of their pets, and they would have 4 or 5 questions, most of them fairly basic questions, but 4 or 5 questions that they only knew the answers to. and we would spend our time getting in that quiet zone, connecting with these pictures, trying to connect with the animals, receive whatever information we received back. For me, early on, it was a couple of words here or there. You know, it would be like, what's his favorite toy, and it'd be, red rope, or where's he like to eat, and, kitchen floor, or something like that, something very basic. And so I'd write this information down, and I'd share it with the group and share it with the owner, or what I call the human companion of the animal. Mm-hmm. And lo and behold, all these questions, every one of them was coming through, and they were totally accurate.
Wow.
And I thought, well, this is kind of interesting. So we went on further in the workshop, and the host brought in her dogs, her live dogs, and we worked with them. Some people petted them, some put their hands on it and just felt the energy from the animal, some just sat there in the quiet zone, and we asked questions of the animals that were alive, and very basic questions once again, got very basic information back, shared it with the group, and it was 100% accurate. So, really at that time I was thinking, well, this is really interesting, this is really cool. Maybe I'm on a roll. Maybe it's my lucky day. Maybe I should go play those lottery numbers.
Right.
But it really wasn't anything I was prepared for, because at that time I was a telecom executive. I was a vice president director of a major telecom corporation, selling millions of dollars worth of cellular phone technology to major corporations. And though I had pets of my own, I wasn't quite sure what this meant, what this gift was that was presenting itself, what I should be doing with it, and, how I could tie that in with my, professional life was definitely not clear. Mm-hmm. And so, like most people that receive their gifts, we don't quite know what to do with them at first, and so we sort of just play around with them a little bit, keep it on the low down, keep it kind of quiet. I knew that I wasn't going to be able to tell this to my boss. That wouldn't work.
Yeah.
And I couldn't see myself going to a CEO of a major corporation and saying, I'll make you a deal here. You buy $20 million worth of my product today, I'll come by your house and explain why Fluffy's no longer using the litter box. Now, if that sales approach would have worked, maybe I would have considered it, but I didn't think that would probably fly. Yeah. So I spent a few years just working with my own pets, and the gift continued to grow. I started receiving more than just a couple words. I started receiving some pictures and feelings. Then word got out to a few of my close friends, and I'd work with their pets that were having behavior issues or challenges, and the gift continued to grow. And then my wife Kim and I started working with rescue organizations, and later became president of our local Humane Society, thus giving me even more opportunities, and thus the gift continued to grow. Till finally in the fall of 2007, I couldn't ignore it anymore. I knew this was something more than what I had ever anticipated, and I had to make a decision on whether to just continue to play it low and keep it on the low down, or whether I should step up and know that this is a gift and this is a purpose and mission that I have, and take that leap of faith. And so I stepped up to the plate and jumped off the ledge, landed in my little rocky boat, and left corporate America, left my 20-year career in telecom behind, and started working full-time. And we developed the business Wagging Tails, and we hung our internet shingle out there and started letting people know that we're here to help you out and help you build a great relationship with your pets, and sort of give the animals a voice. And that's what we've been doing ever since.
Now, when you hear a lot that animals are intuitive, that they know when danger is coming, or they can sense things, even say the presence of a spirit, whatever the case may be. Can they sense that you can communicate with them, or do you have to open up the line of communication?
Well, I've gotten to the point when this first started happening, it was a regular Dr. Dolittle episode. So once they found out I could do this, it was chatter, 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 and I really needed to control it. And I remember going back to the instructor of the workshop and said, this is really interesting stuff, but if it's going to be like this, I need it out of me. I need you to take it out of me, and let's get rid of it right now. And she laughed, of course, and said, well, hon, it's obvious this is a gift you've been given, and you need to determine what you're going to do with it. Perhaps I can help you, give you some techniques to sort of turn it on and turn it off, how to control it a little bit better. And that's what we did. And over time, I got to the point where I can sort of shut it off and shut it down when I need to. But there are cases when the animals are real surprised and they know that channel's open. We had a wonderful opportunity during the book tour. We just got back. I'm here in Atlanta, and we just got back a few days ago from San Diego. And we had a little bit of downtime, so we went to the San Diego Zoo, which is always very interesting because you've got a whole array of animals. And this is a much greater array of animals than your typical domestic animals that we have as pets. Mm-hmm. And I had a chance to connect with quite a few of those animals, and some were very open and receptive to it. Others were shocked because nobody's ever communicated with them at that level. Only their fellow creatures communicated at a telepathic level, but they were really intrigued by it. Others could care less. So, each one of them has their own personality, but they do connect with it. They are very intuitive. They're very in tune with what's going on. And, in order to communicate with them, you just have to get to that level, that level to trust what you're receiving and trusting what you can get back to the animals.
Mm-hmm. I just, reading some of this and your bio, I just pictured it when this first started, you walking into an animal shelter and hearing, Tim, hey, Tim, over here, Tim, and it's like,
that's right. Move to the better cage. I need some more insight.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but yeah. So you've learned how to turn it off and on. I guess, which would definitely be a good thing for situations like that where you would go in and they would know that they could communicate with you. I guess it would kind of be overbearing.
Yeah, it is. It can be overbearing. It could definitely burn me out if I chose to go that route. So we did put some methods in place where we can control it a little bit. But it is a real cool thing because once you open yourself up to it, the animals know and they connect with you and they want to communicate because this is their opportunity to be able to share at a different level with the people who love them and the people that take care of them. Mm-hmm. And so they want to do that. It's not uncommon for me to walk into a room, walk into a house, and there'll be animals at different places in the house. But once they know I'm there and that conduit, as I call it, is open, they come. They come running, and some of these are animals, that people come over, I come over their house and they say, well, we got Miss Fluffy upstairs and she'll never come down. You'll never see her because she's always under the bed. And, within 10 minutes, Fluffy's downstairs visiting with me and laying on my lap, and the owner is just shocked. Usually it's the guys that are saying that, that you'll never see Fluffy down there. But, it's a real... it's a real unique and cool gift that I've been given, and I'm just here to try to help out any way I can.
Oh, wow. Now, what about the way that they, communicate with you? I know I read a little bit. So there's different ways that an animal will communicate with you.
Right. Each animal, I get asked this quite a bit. I get asked the question, what type of animal, which animal is the most talkative? Mm-hmm. Are cats more talkative than horses? Or elephants more talkative than rhinos? Those type of things. And it really doesn't have anything to do with the breed or type of animal it is. It's the unique personality of that animal. So they're just like you and I. And some animals are very flamboyant in their discussions. They like to talk a lot. They like to show pictures and words and feelings, colors, the whole array of senses that they experience. They want to share that. And others are more subdued. Some will choose just one way to communicate, whether it's a couple of words or a couple of pictures. And they'll just say a few bits of information and they're done. They've said all they wanted to say. So it really is, you have to boil down to each individual animal's personality.
Oh, so it'll come in like, say, words and images. I know I read, like, they would somehow convey, like a taste or a smell to you. Does that come in an image form?
Well, it's interesting because when I first started developing this gift, it was more of an image form. If they wanted a favorite treat, they'd sort of show me the treat. Mm-hmm. But now it's gotten to the point where I can actually... I know those senses. I can actually smell and taste those things. If they've got an injury, I can feel where the injury is coming from. A great example is even with my own pets. We were on tour last week with the book, and my wife called to check in with the pet sitter. Someone was staying in her house just to see how things were going. and because I just felt there was something wrong. I felt that one of our dogs had an issue with one of his paws. So she called to check in. Lo and behold, one of our schnauzers had stepped on a bee, and the stinger was still in there. And I immediately, told my wife, whispered to my wife, asked her if it was the right front paw, because I had a sensation in my right front wrist. And sure enough, that's where he was stung. And he fortunately licked the stinger out, and it turned out okay, but I could feel that sensation he was having. Yeah. Which is something, 5 years ago I didn't have that type of connection, but now I've got to that point, which is really beneficial. Animals can show me where the pain is, and I could feel those type of things, and we uncover where the issues are to then allow you to take your pet to the veterinarian and give them at least your veterinarian a little bit more direction on what the potential problem is. Right. But it's also very it's a very odd sensation. It's a strange thing to try to explain, and it's uncomfortable during that connection.
Well, you say that even sometimes you can taste, like if there's something they're wanting you to I guess get the feel of something they taste that maybe they like. So, I mean, would that mean that you could actually maybe taste some Alpo or something?
Well, I'll taste more of the sensation, whether it's a bitter sensation or whether it's a sweet sensation.
Yeah.
That's
not as bad.
Excuse me, sir. Before you answer this question, I'm getting it's either Friskies or Kibbles and Bits. I can't quite tell. It's not quite that good, but that would be a nice circus carnival trick, I think, if I went on that route. But no. But, they will. They'll want me to smell, like if there's litter box issues, they'll want me to smell, the sensation. It's not necessarily the things that go into the litter box, but if one of their mates, for instance, is having some kidney or urinary tract infections or things of this sort, their urine will be a different smell, a more pungent smell. There'll be something going on, and either the cat that has the issue or a cat in the household will tell me that, hey, I'm not using this litter box because of this smell. And we can sort of narrow it down and pinpoint which of the cats is actually having the issue, so we can possibly get it corrected ahead of time. So it's real fascinating. I had a client tonight that was at that same exact situation, and without me knowing it, I had felt the sensation that the cat had some kidney issues. I felt some stones. I smelt the pungent of the urine. The cat would not go in the litter box, and sure enough, the owner of the animal said, yeah, as a matter of fact, he does have stones, and we've been treating it, and we've been trying to see how he's feeling about the whole thing. And, this was something I had no knowledge of, no information on before I got on the phone with this lady. So it's great, and it's different, but it's something that, at the end of the day, if we can help the animals out and help you with the animals, then we've done a good job.
Right. Now, what are some common problems that you're asked to kind of help with?
Well, there's the two biggest ones. I'll share the two biggest ones that everybody seems to go through. The kitty will no longer use the litter box. Now, that is actually, cats are very smart. Cats know that, they're very independent creatures for the most part. Yeah. They come and go as they want to. They get their love and then they leave, and go off on doing their own thing. But they know when there's something wrong, something's going on with them, whether it's a physical issue, a mental issue, or an emotional issue. The one sure way they can get our attention is to stop using the litter box. And people assume that if they stop using the litter box, then it's either, they assume, first of all, it's a physical problem, which a lot of times it is. It's if they stop using the litter box, there could be a physical issue going on with the animal that we need to help you identify so you can share it with your veterinarian. But other times it could be an emotional issue. If there is stress going on in the household, if you're remodeling a room in the household and you haven't bothered to explain why these strange people are in the house, that'll set the cat off. If you bring a new cat into the household without proper introduction or proper notification to the existing cat, that'll throw things off. If you are in an emotional state, maybe your energy is very low, very negative, maybe you've had a tough day or a tough week or a tough life, those things impact the animal too. And sooner or later they're going to let you know. And the cat's wonderful at doing that. So that's the first one I get the most calls on. And the second one is animals having anxiety when you leave the house.
Right.
Yeah, and this could be where you're going to work, whether you're going on vacation, a trip, whatever it may be. Our animals do have a great deal of anxiety, and some of them handle it better than others. But in particular, I have some cases quite often with dogs that things haven't been explained to them properly, and they wonder where you're going and when you'll be back and what are they supposed to be doing. And they get a little upset, they get a little bored, and thus they get in a little bit of trouble. And so in the book, we talk about that. The book Wagging Tails, we have 32 stories of animals that I've worked with to solve a whole array of issues and handle lost animals, those type of things. But we also have 24 helpful hints, tips that you can do today to help you out with your pet. And one of the tips is, how do you communicate to your animal when you're leaving the house, and how do you avoid that anxiety? And basically, the tip is you talk to the animal and you tell them where you're going, you tell them when you'll be back, and you tell them what they're supposed to do while you're gone. Give them a little job to do.
Huh.
So, and it's that simple. It's just by explaining it to them in this verbal, speaking to this thing verbally, they pick up on that. They see the visualization of the words that you're saying, and they also feel your positive attitude because you've talked to them about it. And thus they respond a lot, they have a lot less anxiety, and they tend to respond a lot better.
Yeah, and maybe that's something I should tell my brother, because now his dog is not as bad as he used to be, but he used to have a lot of anxiety when he would leave. I mean, and literally tear the apartment up, or wherever he lived. I know he lost many deposits on apartments because he would leave, and it could be for an hour, and he would come back. The carpet would be completely tore up. Any blinds he had would just shredded. I mean, the dog would completely tear up the apartment. You couldn't leave him anywhere. And the dog also got out of some amazing places. How in the world he did. This was a big dog, and I, seen him squeeze out of a window that was open about 2 inches. To get out of it, because he would have, like you said, anxiety and did not like to be left alone. So the suggestion would be to just explain it to him then.
It definitely explain to him. It's a lot like talking to anybody else in your household, talking to a child in your household. And I'm not talking about talking simplistic. I'm just saying being very clear. Because, I always give people a test. Okay, we'll do the test right now. I'm going to test you if you're ready for this big, tough test.
All right.
Because I want to explain this a little bit further.
All right.
Okay, so I'm going to say 2 words to you. And at the end of those 2 words, you let me know if you heard the words and if you saw the image that I was projecting. Okay? Mm-hmm. All right, so the words are orange ball. Orange ball. Now, did you hear the words orange ball?
Yeah.
Okay, and did you see an orange ball of some sort?
Yeah.
There you go. So that's what we're talking about with our animals. Our animals understand the words that we're saying, and they are very visual creatures, so they pick up on that imagery. Now, perhaps your orange ball was different than my orange ball.
Right.
Maybe yours is a beach ball and mine's a basketball, or somebody else's is, a fruit, an orange fruit, and but so we had to go back and be very clear about it. But when you say the words, they understand it. When you give them, when you say those words, you automatically give them the vision, the imagery that you're wanting to project. And the third thing that it does for you is it automatically lifts you up to a higher energy level. It makes you feel better because you've talked it through. It's like that old terminology of getting it off your chest. Let's just talk about it. And when you explain things to your animals, just like anyone else in your household, you assume that they understood everything that you're saying, and they got the picture of what you're trying to get them to accomplish, and thus everything's going to be good when you leave the house. And so that's what we're doing when we get rid of that anxiety, and it's amazing. We've got a story in the book about a cat, and the cat had lived with this lady for 10 years and never had a problem, always used the litter box, stayed upstairs for the most part, and everything was good. Then all of a sudden, over like a 2-week period, the cat had a total change in personality, started urinating on everything, and was really distressed. And so the lady called me and said, Tim, you got to help me out here. I thought there was a physical problem, but I've taken her to the vet. Everything's checked out just fine. What's going on? So I asked the cat, and the cat kept giving me these words, changes. So I knew there was a change going on in the household. So at this point, we had to sort of peel back that onion to figure out what that change is. So I asked the owner, has there been a physical change in your house? Have you moved? Have you put new carpet down, new drapes, new furniture? Have you moved any of the furniture in the house? And all the answers were no, no, no. So I knew there was no physical changes within the house, which will trigger an animal behavior change if there's a physical change within the household. So once again, I started asking the cat. The same words came back, changes. So I started asking, has there been any changes in the food or the diet or the way you do things? Once again, the answers were no. And then I asked about the job situation. Have you changed your job? Has anything changed within the times you come home? She goes, well, the job hasn't changed, but now that you mention it, I've been coming home later. I come home at 7 o'clock now instead of 5 o'clock. I said, oh, really? I said, well, how long's that been going on? She goes, about 2 weeks. Oh, 2 weeks. And lo and behold, that was the change, and the cat was upset because this never has happened. She's never been late. She's always been on time. And so I had her explain to the cat, once again, where she's going. Mommy's going to go to work. I'll be back, in 8 hours, which will be 7 o'clock, and I need you to be a good girl and be waiting for Mommy when I get home. And lo and behold, from that day till now, the story is about a year or so old, the cat has not had a single urine problem, and has also met the lady at the door at 7 p.m. every night.
That's amazing. That is something.
It's surely, it's fun. You think, wow, that's just so simple, but it's so silly too.
Yeah.
But hey, it works. It works, and if it works, go for it. That's what I say.
Mm-hmm. Now, what about, how often should we be communicating with our animals? The way it sounds is really on a very regular basis to just let them know everything that's going on.
Let them know every single day. They're just another member of your household, and you need to keep them informed of what's going on. And any good household has good communications as the cornerstone to success. And my wife has drilled that into my mind, so I know it works. And But you want to keep them informed of what's going on, because if there's things that are, issues going on in the household, positive or negative things going on in the household, people coming or going, you need to let them know. Mm-hmm. So we've gotten a habit, with our schnauzers, we have never had a problem since I've started doing this, and this has been years now. And when we talk about leaving the house, I let them know when I go to the mailbox. This evening I went to the mailbox and I said, boys, Dad's going to go out here to the mailbox. I'll be back in about 5 minutes. Watch for me out. I need you to watch for me out the window and greet me when I come in. And lo and behold, that's what they do. They go right to the window. They watch me go to the mailbox. They come back. They greet me at the door, and that's the plan. They're happy to see me like I've been gone forever, and everything's hunky dory. But yeah, you should be communicating with them everything that's going on, because they want to know, and they get kind of stressed out when you don't let them know.
Yeah. Now, someone in the chat room, Christina in our chat room, was asking, what do you think about people that treat their dogs like kids? Is that bad for a dog? And I'm kind of thinking maybe this is the ones who really, I guess, maybe overdo it a lot. Can that be bad?
Well, I think it can be. It's unnecessary. When I say to talk to them like your children, I'm talking about being very clear to them. You want to explain, what the situation is, what they need to do about it, and why is it going to be a good thing? Why is it going to be okay? And that's how you can successfully talk to your children and your spouse and anybody else in your household, by being very clear. But the ones that, treat them like little babies, goo-goos and gagas, and dress them in outfits. And I've never seen the only time an animal likes wearing an outfit, from what they've shared with me, is to make their owners happy. That's the only reason they wear those little pink tutus and heads and things. It's just to make you happy. Otherwise, they would rather just be left alone to do their own thing. But yeah, I think it can be, it can be a real stress on the dog if you're constantly talking to them at a lower level. We actually got to get up to their level. It's a way to look at it.
Now, what in the case? Okay, talking about in terms of kind of talking to them like a kid, the goo goo gaga stuff. Now, would that be okay, kind of say with a puppy? I mean, do you have to kind of take the age of the animal into consideration as well? Say, a 20-year-old dog, you talk, more as an adult, whereas a puppy more as a child.
No, I think, to be honest with you, I would talk to him from puppyhood on in the same fashion. I would tell them exactly what's going on, what they need to do, and why it's going to be a good thing. Now, I'm not saying not to have fun with it. We're naturally, when we see cute little puppies, it's just like seeing cute little babies. We want to say, oh, isn't he so cute? And we tug on his ears and do all that fun stuff.
Right, yeah.
But in reality, they just want to know, want to live a happy life, and the best way to do that is keep them informed on everything that's happening. And, puppies are a little bit different because they're like children as far as their attention span. They can go through 24 emotions in about a 2-minute period of time. And so we have to be aware of that as well, and we have to continue to reinforce that communication with puppies and kitties. But in reality, just treat them like you would. Start from the beginning, and you'll get accustomed to talking to them that way, and you guys will have a great life together.
Now, Christine also had another question, wanting to know if you had the ability to communicate with animals that have passed on.
Well, yes, I do, and one of the things I work with are people that have animals that are either going through the transition process and help them understand the wants and needs of the animal that's ready to pass over, and then connecting with them at a later time. And it's more so just sort of get people through the healing process so they know. When our animals pass on, we have a lot of questions, and we have a lot of self-doubt. Did I do too much? Did I not do enough? Was it the right time? Was it not? So really, as humans, we beat ourselves up over that. In reality, our animals, they're not as attached to their bodies like we are as humans. They know when it's time to go, and they know when they've completed their mission and purpose, and they usually go very peacefully and want you to know that. So we deal with it really from an aspect of really helping people understand how their animal's doing, and that they did the right things, and making them get a little bit of closure behind the situation.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Now, what is the most unusual or exotic animal that you've ever communicated with?
Wow, I have had, every time I think I've done it all, there's always something new popping up. I had a lady that contacted me the other day, and she had a pet hedgehog. Pet hedgehog. And, it was a real interesting thing. I'd never talked to a hedgehog before, so we gave it a shot and had no problem connecting. And the hedgehog actually had a real interesting story. The animals come into our life for a purpose. They're here for a mission or a purpose, and they work every day to try to fulfill what that purpose is. And that purpose could be to not only provide us unconditional love, but maybe to teach us love, to teach us to open up, to slow down, to appreciate life, to get through a tough situation in our life, whether it's physical or emotional. And when they've completed what they need to complete, they tend to, then they move on, whether it's physically move out of their bodies or they move on to a new location. So this lady had purchased, had gotten a hedgehog. It's just a fun little mate. Had a little carrying case for it, and she carried it around the house and places she went. And she's just curious how he was doing. Is he doing okay? And he was doing great, but he had more to say than just "I'm doing well."
Right.
He showed me his little carrying case he was in. And the carrying case has a little metal door that opens up, and she leaves it open from time to time so he can come and go. And then he showed me a computer keyboard with a computer monitor. And he showed me that he would go on the monitor and lay there for periods of time and then come back. And so these were real important things he wanted to share with me. So I started asking her questions. I said, well, I'm assuming you own a computer. Do you own a desktop, with a monitor and a keyboard and a separate unit? She goes, yes, I do. I said, do you happen to carry him around in a little case that has a little door that you leave open and allow him to come and go? And she goes, yes, I do. I said, do you happen to put that case on the desk beside the computer? And does he come out and crawl around on the computer monitor and lay there for a while and then go back inside? She goes, yeah, he does. How'd you know that? I'm like, well, this is stuff he's sharing with me. And then it went a little bit further, and we got into the conversation, and I said, well, do you just work on your computer for fun, or is this part of your job? She goes, well, no, I work at home. I'm a computer programmer, and I'm on the computer, 10, 12 hours a day, sometimes just working and eating lunch at the desk and, just typing. And she said, my health has really not been very good because I just don't take the time to take care of myself. I'm always on the computer. And she said, but, it's interesting because my little hedgehog, since he's been around, I don't work constantly. He sort of lets me know when it's time to take a break.
Huh.
And at that point, it started coming through very clear what he was sharing with me is his purpose was to come there and actually give her wake-up calls, because he'll come out, lay on the computer for a couple hours, and then go back in his cage.
Right.
And then when he goes in that cage, he wakes her up and says, oh, you're going back in your cage. Let me see what time it is. Oh, my gosh, I've been here for a couple hours. I need to go take a break. And so now she's starting to feel better. She's actually taking breaks throughout the day and eating proper meals and doing the things that she should be doing to take care of herself. And this little hedgehog, whether she knew it or not, was there to teach her those things.
That's a great story. And, I have to say, there are, reading some of the stories out of Wagging Tail, some of them are just great to hear some of those. And the way that animals play such a huge part in our lives.
Yeah, they do. I mean, they are here for, the unconditional love alone is critical for us, and is such a wonderful thing to receive, because that's all they want is to give that love and attention. But, there are really good measures of how we're doing as people. I always tell people that if your animal starts having a behavior change or there's something going on that's kind of off, it's a great opportunity for you to step back, take a breath, look within yourself, look within the family unit to see what's going on. Because more than likely, there's probably some shift in yourself or in the family unit that possibly your animal's trying to wake you up to. Mm. So they're good barometers for that as well.
Mm. Now, what about, within some of your communications, have you gained any insight on, how they communicate with each other, and can a dog communicate pretty effectively with a cat?
Absolutely. That's the cool thing about animals, because they all communicate on this telepathic level.
Wow.
Now, we as humans, we hear the barks and the meows and the whinnies of a horse and the roar of a lion. So we hear all that, and those are some indicators of how they communicate. But the true way that they communicate is that thing we don't see or that thing we don't hear. It's like when a flock of geese are flying in formation. When the first goose is tired and wants to fall back, and the back one to come to the front, they don't put on the brakes and have a honking session to tell them, who to do what. Right. They connect. They connect at that deep level, that telepathic or intuitive level, so they know instinctually what to do. And so it's the same thing with animals in the household, and it doesn't matter what the breed is. So dogs talking to cats or birds, they all communicate on that same level, and that's what makes it very unique.
Now, can we say unconsciously communicate telepathically with our pets? And the reason I ask that is, I distinctively remember not just our pets, but my grandfather. I've seen this many times. He had a pet Dachshund, which actually come from a line of Dachshunds that we had, and this Dachshund always knew when he was coming home. It didn't matter what time of the day it was. It wasn't like it was a regular thing, because he worked for himself and he would cover a job for somebody, and so it was different hours, and it didn't matter if it was 2 o'clock in the evening, 5 o'clock in the evening, 3 o'clock in the morning. This Dachshund would get up in the window and sit there and watch, and lo and behold, it would be 5 or 10 minutes and he would pull on the driveway, and it would be the only time that she would do that.
Mm-hmm. Because because he had that heart connection with his dog, he had that intuitive connection whether he knew it or not, and yes, we can communicate with him at that level, and sometimes we do it from a subconscious level, and we don't even recognize it. So yeah, you definitely can. I ask people a lot, when I do speaking engagements, and we do these little quizzes, and I always have people hold up their hands when I ask this question. And the question is, how many of you have taken a pet to the veterinarian when there is no outwardly sign that there's a problem, but you just know there is. You know there's something wrong with Spot. You know there's something wrong with Fluffy. And so you're just going to take them to the vet to get it checked out. And sure enough, when you get there, there is some sort of underlying problem. And you would be amazed at how many hands, majority of them, I would say, people raise their hands to say, yes, I've done that. And that's what we're talking about. That's that intuitive connection you have, that knowing you have. You can't really put your finger on it. You can't really explain it. Perhaps it's the animal sharing information with you, and you're just not really realizing it. It's tapping into your subconsciousness. It's that connection you have with the animals, and that's what we're talking about here.
Yeah, and you know, kind of back to my grandfather there, it was amazing because he honestly did not want a dog, and especially a Dachshund, because you know this is more of an inside type of dog. You really don't see many Dachshunds, you know, that stay outside, and they ended up having, you know, her for about 15, 16 years. She finally passed away about a year ago, and he loved that dog to death. It was amazing the impact that she had on his life. And I mean, we're talking one of the, you know, an elderly guy come from that era where a man was a man and he took care of the household. He did not cry, he did not hug, he did not say I love you, you know, the whole nine yards. But this dog hit a very soft spot with him, and he ended up falling in love with her.
Absolutely. You know, and it is amazing. My father was that way. He was, you know, one of 13 kids, and he had to leave school early to go work the farm, and so, you know, he wasn't a touchy-feely kind of guy. And I remember this day, we had a dog when I was growing up, a little collie German Shepherd mix. But our house, you know, it was me and my two sisters, my mom and dad, and our house was 675 square feet. So we didn't have room for a dog inside the house. We barely had room for each other inside the house.
Right.
But we had the dog outside, and he was an outside dog, and Dad kept it that way. But I remember I graduated from college and we got married to my wife, and a couple years later we came to visit. And I walked into my mom and dad's house, and there was this little butterball of a Pomeranian sitting on his lap. And he was just loving up on this little butterball because he fed it everything. He fed it to death, basically. But he just loved this dog. And I just shook my head. I had to look 2 or 3 times, and I'm like, where does dog come from? And who are you? Where is my father? Some alien has taken my father away and replaced it with this guy in a Pomeranian. Something's wrong here.
Yeah, well, that's the exact same with my grandfather. And her name was Miss Mary, which was my grandmother's name was Mary. The litter was born on my grandmother's birthday, so you know he named her Miss Mary, and. He, you know, she had a spot right beside him in the recliner. You know, when he sat down, he would instinctively just kind of move over. She'd jump up. If he took his boots off, she would jump down and take his socks off for him, laying beside, you know, his boots. It was just the greatest thing to see from this, you know, tough guy. You know.
Exactly. So, you know, I'm sure it taught him a different level of love, taught him to let his guard down a little bit, allowed him to share a little bit more with the family, a side that they didn't always get to see. Mm-hmm. And that's what our pets do for us. And it's amazing. And sometimes we don't recognize that till much later in life, but they do. They do have all these wonderful teachings and wonderful things they do in our lives, and we just need to continue to try to build the best life we can with them.
Definitely. Well, Tim, tell us, give us your website and where our listeners can pick up Wagging Tails if they'd like to. Very interesting read, by the way.
Yeah. So you can take a look at the website, which is wagging-tails.com. That's WAGGING-TALES.com. And I'll tell you a little bit more about me, tell you about the book, the private consultations I do, speaking seminars, and there's a wonderful free e-newsletter that we put out the first of every month that not only keeps you abreast of what's going on with me and Wagging Tails, but more importantly, it gives you helpful hints and tips that you can implement today to have a better life with your pets. So I encourage people to sign up for that. And the book is available on your favorite online internet site, online retailer, as well as all major bookstores nationwide. So it's out there, and it's Wagging Tails, T-A-L-E-S. Every animal has a tail, and they definitely do.
All right, wonderful. Well, we're going to continue this conversation with Tim here in just a minute, and we're going to look at some of the stories that are in the book, Wagging Tails, and maybe those who are tuning in, maybe you have a question for Tim for a little tip on something with your pet. Well, you can definitely ask those questions via email, jgreer@shadowsinthedarkradio.com, or jump in our chat room as well if you wish. So don't go anywhere. Like I said, we're going to continue this conversation with our guest tonight, Tim Link. You are listening to Shadows in the Dark, broadcasting live at shadowsinthedarkradio.com and Dark Plains Radio at darkplainsradio.com. The show can also be heard as a rebroadcast at ParaX at para-x.com and available as a podcast at Black Vault Radio at blackvaultradio.com and Planet Paranormal at planetparanormal.com.
Have you been wondering what gift to get that special person in your life? Then you need to visit Mountain View Candleworks, your one-stop headquarters for candles, fountains, specialty foods, and much more. Just visit www.mountainviewcandleworks.com. We make your candles with mountain care.
More than just another New Age journal, Mysteries Magazine provides a thought-provoking, in-depth look into myths, magic, and the paranormal, as well as the mysteries which have intrigued both historians and scientists from the beginning of time. So subscribe today by visiting www.mysteriesmagazine.com or pick up a copy at select newsstands throughout the U.S. and Canada. Again, that was www.mysteriesmagazine.com. Challenge your beliefs.
Are you wondering if the path that you've chosen is the right one for you? Or would you like to see a glimpse of what the future may hold? Tarot may be able to help you understand better the path that you're on. The cards don't lie, nor do they lead you astray, as they're a vehicle for messages from God, angels, and guides. Have your cards read for you by world-renowned tarot card master Scotty Roberts. To schedule a private reading with Scotty, visit www.tarotbyscotty.com today and find out what the cards may hold for you.
Ready for some rollicking adventure? In Scotty Roberts' book, The Rollicking Adventures of Tam O'Hare, join Irish Rabbit, Tam O'Hare, and his young squirrel squire, Horatio McNutt, as they journey through Scotland of the mid-1500s seeking a small child who's been stolen by the fairy folk. Crafty raccoon pirates, conniving noble wolves, conflicted royal foxes, and self-serving religious badgers all stand in the way as their quest brings them headlong into high seas action and supernatural intrigue. The Rollicking Adventures of Tam O'Hare is in bookstores everywhere and at barnesandnoble.com. This hardcover, lushly illustrated chapter book is the first book in the Tam O'Hare series. But hang on to your sabers. Book 2, Tam O'Hare and the Banshee of Ballyglenmorrow, is coming later this year. So swash your buckle and prepare yourself for a historically rollicking, swaggeringly supernatural adventure. Visit TamO'Hare.com to learn more. You'll never trust a raccoon with a sword again.
Hello everybody, this is Mr. G from the World Paranormal Society and from Haunt the Hunters on DarkPlainsRadio.com. I would like to tell you about a website. It's called TreasureForAllUSA.com, where I got everything from knickknacks to complete DVR systems. A place where you can shop for everything and everything, and if we don't have it, I'll find it for you. That's again, TreasureForAllUSA.com, everything from DVR systems, TV sets, knickknacks, and gifts for loved ones. Come check it out, TreasureForAllUSA.com. You won't be disappointed.
Our guest tonight is Tim Leake. He's the author of Wagging Tails, Every Animal Has a Tail, Conversations with Our Animal Friends. And Tim, I want to get into some of the stories that are in the book. And I want to start off with a particular one because I found it very interesting, as well as, in a way, because I want to share a story with you I've shared many times on the show, kind of about this same insect in this case, not a dog or a cat, but Pepe, I guess is how you would say it, the praying mantis.
Yeah, and it's a really fascinating story. In the book Wagging Tails, we talk mostly about dogs and cats because that's your traditional domestic animal, and a lot of the stories in the book are of animals I work with at local rescue groups and homes that foster these animals. So I go in and help those situations out. And as we were talking about earlier in the show, when I first started doing this, it was dogs and cats, and now it's grown to everything you could possibly think of, from black rhinos to lizards to you name it, it's out there. And in this particular case, there's a story about Pepe, the praying mantis. Now, we have this wonderful house here in the greater Atlanta area, and it's got this beautiful screened-in back porch. And one summer afternoon, there was a praying mantis hanging on the screen outside of the screen porch. Now, inside the screen porch is all kinds of tropical flowers and plants that collect bugs and spiders, a great sanctuary that provides safety if an animal or an insect wanted to come inside. Well, Pepe was on the outside of the screen porch, and I turned to my wife and said, "Hey, look, there's a praying mantis. They're magical creatures. They're very mythical. They bring good luck. Some cultures believe they bring good luck to us." And I thought, well, that's just fascinating to be blessed by him coming for a visit. And my wife said, "Well, why don't you go talk to him?" And I did sort of one of those, cartoon double takes. Like, what? Huh? Can I actually do this?
Yeah.
And this was very early on when I started working with the animals, and I even doubted myself. Thought, well, can I really do this with insects? I know I've had luck with dogs and cats and some other creatures of that sort, but insects. So we went outside, and I said, well, I'm going to give it my best shot. I opened myself up to Pepe, and I asked him a series of questions, and he respectfully answered my questions. I tried to assign him a name. He didn't really care to have a name, but he thought he would amuse me. And he didn't like the first name I offered him, so I offered him Pepe, and he was like, yeah, that's fine. You simple little human. If it amuses you to give me this name, then great. But and I invited him to actually come inside the screen porch and sort of live, because he could be protected there and still have a whole bounty full of things to eat. But being the free spirit he is, he declined on that effort. But we had a great connection with him, and it opened my mind and my heart up once again to know that, hey, all these creatures want to communicate, and all of them have the capability to do that. And we can do that. We can connect with these animals. All we have to do is quiet ourselves down, open our hearts and our minds to it, and let that flow. And that's what we did. And so now we've got our wonderful little praying mantis story.
Well, and I love kind of the end of the story that you say that as you walked away, you were pretty sure that you heard him call you a silly human.
Silly human, you silly human. I almost heard a French accent. I could have heard. You silly little human. But it is interesting, the little things they do. It's I had mentioned earlier about going to the San Diego Zoo and talking to some of the animals there, and some being very open to it, and others were like, what is this, and what are you doing? Why are you communicating with me? Because no human had actually tried to do that.
All right.
And it was obvious, and it was new to him. It was strange, and it was kind of puzzling. Why in the world would a human want to do this? But it's fascinating. It's fascinating. But you can do this with any creature out there, and it's just a fascinating and wonderful gift.
Mm-hmm. Now, before I share my story with you, a couple of questions. First, have you communicated with other insects besides Pepe, the praying mantis?
We have. It's real interesting with young adults, especially nowadays. We were talking offline, most of our young adults, they don't have the mindset or the time necessarily to dedicate to a cat or a dog and all the things that go into that, taking care of that type of pet. So they've gotten into the more exotic pets. And so we've had chances to talk to black widow spiders and lizards and iguanas and fish and things that are now attractive to the young adults, and found out their stories and found out some health problems with some of them, and some a little bit about their histories, and so any animal can communicate. So whether we're talking about an insect or a reptile or an aquatic animal, a wild animal, or your typical domestic animals that we're familiar with, they're all open to it. They all communicate on the same level, and I can definitely talk to them.
And the other question that I want to ask you, because this kind of ties in with the story, is what about music and even television? I've seen many dogs sit there and watch television. Do they enjoy those things?
They do. They like to be mentally stimulated. And one of the fascinating things I was talking about this with my in-laws at dinner tonight, in the fact that when we go to the zoos and we talk to the animals at the zoos, some of them are very in tune, and they'll talk to me. They'll actually look at me. I don't have to snap my fingers or yell or scream or clap or whistle. They automatically connect and they look at me, and we have that connection. But others aren't as in tune with that because they haven't been properly mentally stimulated. In your major zoos, and no offense to zookeepers, I mean the people that take care of these animals in the zoos are incredible. But some of the animals, like your elephants and the animals that perform there, and the bigger animals, they get a lot of mental stimulation. Some of the lesser ones, they don't. They just get food brought to them, and their pens cleaned, and then that's about the extent of it. So they really aren't. They have a hard time at connecting with that level and really keeping the conversation going because of that situation. So, when we're talking about our domestic animals, our dogs and our cats, do they like TV and do they like radio? Yes, they definitely do. It stimulates their minds. They'll even have preferences on what they like to watch or what they like to listen to. I've seen some get agitated when they put harder music, louder music on the radio compared to soothing music. I've even heard some people say, yeah, my dog likes country music and I play country music all the time. I don't know. But, we've got two schnauzers, and schnauzers are very visual creatures, and we can put on a animal show, and they will jump off the couch, go to the front of the TV to see what's going on. Right. And then they'll go to the back of the TV, because the back of our living room TV backs up to a door that goes to the back porch. And so they assume those animals are behind that TV. They've come in through the back door. And so they just assume that that's the case. And in particular, one of my schnauzer, he loves to play. This is really interesting. He loves to play with balls. So we've got hundreds and hundreds of toys in our house. When I traveled constantly, when I was a telecom executive, every time I'd come home, I'd bring a toy and hide it in my suitcase, and I would open the suitcase and they would dig it out. So we literally have, 3 stories of toys everywhere. But his preference is the ball. He likes for me to toss the ball, and he'll chase it and bring it back. The rope toys he could care less about. Well, if I'm watching TV, he'll lay there perfectly silent, let me watch TV. When I turn on a basketball or a football game, he immediately sets up and he starts watching the show.
Wow.
He can identify the ball inside and the movement of the ball inside the show.
Yeah. And,
it never ceases to amaze me what these animals can do.
Yeah, that is. Now, I have to say that I'm going to share my story. Our dog, which her name is Sweetie, it pretty much lays around and sleeps most of the day unless you say, do you want to go ride? That is like a key word for her. She loves to just ride in the car. Now, she's not. Well, what's funny about it though is because we've most of our dogs always enjoyed riding in a vehicle, and you see the typical dog sticking their head out the window and letting the air blow over their face. Sweetie does not care for that. She likes to just sit down in the front seat, curl up, and lay down.
That's amazing. And that's like I said, it's one of those things. They're all their unique personalities, the things they like and they dislike. Mm-hmm. And you can have 2 dogs from the same litter, and they have totally different personalities. And one will like sticking its head out the window, and one will be like your baby, to just lay down and have a nice trip.
Mm-hmm. And she loves. I get a kick out of her because if we say, "Do you want to go ride?" Well, she'll run out in front of you, and she'll literally run from car to car. Almost like, "Which one we going in? Which one we going in?" It is funny to watch her because she'll look at the car, look at you, trying to figure out which one are you going to go to. So. But it's great. But let me share my story with you, and I've shared this story many times on the show because it's just it's one of those things that stick with you, and if you experience something like this, it's something you never forget. And I'm sure probably most of our regular listeners at least are probably like, oh my gosh, not this story again. But they tend to seem to enjoy hearing it. But it deals with the praying mantis. And I used to live with my brother in an apartment, and I play the guitar. He also plays the guitar, which is now going on. He's a professional musician. Went to school for it, whole 9 yards. But before that, we used to every day. It was like we looked for each other to get home from work. Whoever was the first one, we had everything set up, and we would literally do a jam session for about 8 hours before we went to bed. Both playing the guitar. Well, one day during, kind of spring summer, is a very nice day out, and we had the front door open, and we were sitting in the living room, just playing the guitars. And, a lot of time it was, just instrumental, kind of improvising type of music. No specific style. I guess kind of a mix of a blues, folky, bluegrassy kind of mix in the music, because that's kind of where, the area we're in, that's our influences. Well, as we were sitting there, a praying mantis comes through the front door. Because, like I said, we had it open. It comes, just walking in like nobody's business, and it crawls up on, my brother's knee, and he kind of looks at me like, what in the world? And he kind of just shoos it off of him, and continues playing. And, it walks back, crawls back up his leg, and he kind of looks over at me and, in a way lips, kind of like, let's see what it does. It makes its way all the way up to the nuts of the guitar, the tuners, the guitar, and set on there and was bobbing as if it was dancing to the music, which maybe not as if, I'm sure it probably was dancing to the music, and it just stayed there, I don't know, maybe 5-10 minutes or so, not a very long time. And, after that time, it just kind of made its way back down and walked out the door, like, hey, thanks for jamming, enjoyed the music, I'm out of here.
Fascinating, and they will. He wanted obviously to share that experience with you. That was something that was very deep and perhaps at some level a spiritual thing between you and your brother and what you like to do. And for him to want to participate in that, I guess he felt that energy. And hey, you guys must have been pretty good playing some licks on those guitars as well.
Maybe it was a compliment. But we had a few experiences like that when playing music. One time we had it was like a chorus of birds that were right in the windowsill as we were sitting in one room doing a jam session, and we I guess we were so into it that we didn't realize it until we played the tape back, because we did a lot of recording, and then you could hear like I said, this chorus of birds, of like 5 or more birds just chirping away as we played, and it was just an amazing experience, to hear that was happening, and then tie it in with the whole praying mantis, and it makes you think, what does music mean to animals?
Yeah, and I think it does mean, it means a similar thing to us. We listen to music for a lot of different reasons. Obviously, the enjoyment of it, but it's also can be a calming mechanism. It can be an uplifting experience. It can be take you back in time. So there's a lot of things music does for us, and our animals obviously want to participate in that. And the coolest thing about animals, you'll notice, this is a great experiment to try at home. If you're in a great mood and everything's clicking just right, you've had a great day at the office, and you feel good, you had a great meal, everything's just clicking just right. Notice your animals will come around and spend more time with you. Compared to if you're having a bad day, or if you're just not feeling well, things are just not right, unless they're there to comfort you, like when you're sick, but I'm just talking about just a negative day, they'll tend to try to let you have your space and try to leave you alone, and they don't want to be part of that energy. They don't want to be part of that negative down energy. But the uplifting energy that you bring in when you are in that great place in your life, they want to be part of that, and they want to feel that. And I think that's where music comes into play as well. When we listen to our favorite music, or we're playing our favorite songs, or just having a great time, a great connection like you and your brother have, they want to participate in that. So, and that could be the wild animals as well. They want to be part of that whole positive energy experience.
Mm-hmm. Now, you talked a lot, or kind of mentioned a lot about, animals really having the same characteristics as humans. They carry their own, just like we each have our own. And I guess brings up the question: have you ever come across, a pet or an animal that just had that blah attitude? I guess that the world sucks, the kibbles was stale, and nothing's ever good. Have you come across that, or do most seem to be kind of upbeat and just really like to communicate and think life is great?
Well, animals will, if we're in a positive state of mind, they're going to, as I mentioned, they're going to be in a positive state of mind. If we're in a negative state of mind, they'll try everything they possibly can to deflect that negative energy, to sort of wake us up, to allow us to get rid of that negative energy. But after a while, they'll start to absorb it. And whether it's us directly putting that negativity out there, whether it's their environment, whatever it may be, they'll start to absorb it. And that's when we start seeing some changes in their personality. They become a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more temperamental. They have more issues physically. That's when we start to see all those things. So I think that the general nature of beings, whether we're talking human beings or animals, is we are here for a positive experience. We are here for this wonderful thing called life. It's just the animals do a little bit better job at deflecting whenever the negative stuff comes in, and try their best not to absorb it. So I think, to answer your question directly, I don't think there's such a thing as a bad dog, because I don't think there's any such thing as a bad person. But the challenge is that if you are constantly surrounding yourself with negativity, what can you do about it? And if you choose to absorb it and hold on to it, that's when you become a negative person. And it's the same thing with the animals. If they get to a point where all they're being surrounded by is negativity, they'll absorb it and thus become a more temperamental dog or animal, whatever it may be. Yeah.
Well, and that kind of brings up a question that was just asked through the chat room here, kind of along the same lines, and that is, can animals remember if they have been abused when they were younger? They're saying that they were told before that they don't, but, does this create any kind of stress for this animal, or, anything along those lines?
Well, and here's another great comparison between humans and animals, where we're a lot alike, but how we handle the situation's a lot different. So, for instance, do animals remember what happened to them in the past? Absolutely. They absolutely understand what happened to them in the past. But what animals will typically do is they will learn from those experiences, and then they'll put them away. They'll get rid of that past, especially if it was a negative situation. Maybe they're treated poorly and abused. So they understand it, learn from it, put it in the past. They live for the moment, and they work every day to fulfill their mission and purpose. Now, as humans are the same way. We have a past, and sometimes it's a negative past, but we need to be living in the moment, and we need to be fulfilling our mission and purpose while we're here. The challenge with humans, though, is we get caught up in this thing called life and holding on to our past like it's a golden egg. I mean, how many people have you ever talked to that they say they had a terrible life and they had a terrible childhood, and instead of just leaving it at that, they go into all the history.
Yeah.
They carry around that baggage. They just can't. They just can't get rid of that baggage. And that, by holding on to that past, it doesn't allow them to live fully in the moment, and it definitely interferes with them fulfilling their mission and purpose. Mm-hmm. So I think we've got a lot to learn from our animals. They understand that past, but they will move it aside, and they'll work on living for the moment.
Well, that's interesting. Now, here is a very, very interesting question here. It was just asked in the chat room by Knock, or a.k.a. Captain Bugface, as he likes to be called. You gotta love screen names and nicknames in these chat rooms, right? Yeah, and like I said, this is a very interesting question, and maybe you've communicated with these insects, or maybe not, but saying, many scientists describe bees and ants as having a hive mind, and he's asking if you've ever communicated with ants or bees. Would they, or do they answer as a group, or would they answer individually? Since and that's true. You hear of a lot of that being such a group type of community.
Right, exactly. Well, that is a great question. And when you have a group like that, or a collective, what will typically happen is one spokes animal will step forward. One that speaks for the group as a whole. Now, they all still have their own individual personalities, but they are so focused on the group dynamic in the hive situation, in the case of bees, that they don't take the time to separate themselves out to have individual conversations. So they'll choose someone as the overseer of the group, and they'll speak for the group to answer the questions and actually let you know what's going on with the collective as a whole.
No, that's interesting. Now, what? Excuse me. Kind of going back to the book, Wagging Tails. What is your favorite, story out of the book, or which one really strikes a chord with you? I guess would be a better question.
Yeah, well, the book Wagging Tails, we deal with 32 stories, different stories, and sometimes there are multiple animals in each story, and they're everything from changes in behavior of the animal, whether it be physical, mental, or emotional, but we also have great stories there about lost animals. I do quite a bit of work with lost animals, trying to identify where they're at and either help you locate them or help you bring them back home. And one of the stories that's really touching to me is the story of Madison the cat. And Madison Meets the Bronx is the name of the story. And Madison is at the time of the story, was a 4-year-old cat that lived in City Island, New York, right outside the Bronx. Lived in an apartment complex on the 4th floor. Madison had never been outside in her life, declawed, no collar, no chip, no anything. And one spring morning, it was a nice day, so they opened up the window, and Madison decided to go out the window, out the balcony, and drop down 4 stories down to the ground. Now Madison survives the whole ordeal, but then realizes, hey, this is not quite what it's cracked up to be, and how do I get back inside of this apartment complex? So we go on a 3-week journey with Madison, and I'm working on bringing Madison back home safely. And keep in mind, I'm doing this from Atlanta, Georgia. Madison's in City Island, New York. And so we're going through this, and Madison's showing me a whole array of pictures, feelings, colors, emotions, places where she's staying at night, places where she's visiting during the day to get food, what have you. And there is come to find out, there is a feral, a stray black cat that's hanging around the area that's actually preventing her from coming back. And so we work with the situation. We get the trap set up for the stray cat. We get the cat caught and taken to a safer place, with a place where there's a feral colony of animals where he could fit in nicely, and open the opportunity for Madison to come back home. And I told Madison where to greet her mommy the next morning, and bright and early next morning, Madison comes home.
Oh, wow.
Now, yeah, so now the reason it's a fascinating story to begin with, and it goes through a whole 3-week journey with Madison, which is cool in itself. It's one of the very first opportunities I had to work with lost animals, and since then we've helped bring hundreds of them back home. But the coolest thing about it is, each Christmas I now receive a Christmas card with Madison the cat's picture on it, because its owner, its human companion, sends me Christmas cards thanking me, because Madison now has, is safely back home, and now has a microchip and collar and tags and everything on. And then when we went on tour with the book, and we went to Long Island. We were in New York City, and then we went to Long Island for a book signing, And Madison's mommy came all the way out there to visit with me. And the first time I had a chance to meet her face to face, and we had a chance to sit down and go through the story and talk about Madison. And she told me that Madison now, the balcony, she has enclosed the balcony. It's a nice screened-in porch balcony with a little kiddie door, so Madison can now go out on the balcony and watch for her to come home each night from work, but still stay safely inside the apartment complex. So that's the great things. The book Wagging Tails goes through wonderful stories about that, things that will touch your heart, get you to think, get you to have some fun with the book, spend a few hours and feel good about the time you spent reading the book. But for me, more importantly, is I had an opportunity to help Madison the cat and help bring her home safely to her human companion. And now I have that lifelong connection, and knowing that I did, I left my mark in the world. If that's the only thing I ever did in my life, I actually touched the hearts of this cat and this lady, and to me, that's just a blessing.
Mm-hmm. Now, kind of along those lines, let's what about not just a lost cat, but there's a story of Precious in the book, who wasn't lost, but did go away from home, and you were able to communicate with Precious, and their answer was, I'm exploring, and pretty much I'll be back when I'm ready to be back. What do you do in a situation like that?
Exactly. That's a heart-wrenching situation, and one that's very hard for owners of the animals to understand. The way I try to explain it to people is, I mentioned a little bit earlier about animals coming to our lives for a mission and a purpose. They're here for a purpose, to teach us something, to get us through something, whatever it may be. And then when they're done, they leave. Now, a lot of times that means they leave their physical bodies. They stay with us for a good long time, and they transition out and they pass on. But other times they choose to leave the house. And they could be leaving the house to teach someone else the same lesson they taught you. They could have come into your life to get you through a hard situation in your life, and now you've gotten through that. They're now actually leaving to go find another person or another family to teach that same lesson to, and continue that journey, continue that teaching. And it's hard for us to accept that because we love that animal and love what the animal did for us, but we have to sort of appreciate that they're here for a reason and purpose, and we have to try to honor that the best we can. And and then we also have animals that leave because it's time to. There's their place in the family unit's not really needed anymore, so they feel that they could serve a greater purpose by doing something else. And it's a hard one for us humans to sort of understand and accept, but it's what the animals have consistently shared with me.
Mm-hmm. Now, here's another question coming from the chat room, and I guess this is a great question because this is something many pet owners have dealt with, and because it's a difficult situation. And this is basically about the last trip to the vet, when your animal, your pet gets to that point where you have to take them to the vet and put them to sleep. They're kind of asking, does your pet know what's coming? What can you do in that situation to make it easier, or how do you handle that? That is very tough when you have to have your pet doesn't pass away on its own. You're playing at more or less a hand in it. Many owners feel guilty about that.
Right, exactly. Well, I deal quite a bit with that. It's one of the areas that I handle with every day, and I can help you with that. I can help you better understand what the situation is with the animal. Are they ready to move on? If they are ready to move on, how do they want that to happen? Do they want you to assist, or do they want to go off on their own? Do they want to be, if they're being euthanized, do they want to be euthanized at the house, or do they want to go to the vet's office? Those type of things. So definitely that's something, as a communicator, I can help you out with. But if you have to deal with that on your own, then I think you know your animal. You have that heart connection. You have that intuitive connection with your animal. And I think you just have to trust it. And you have to explain to your animal what the situation is and what he or she needs to do about it and why it's going to be okay. And if you talk them through that process and you go with what your real heart is telling you, then I think that you should feel good about what you're doing, because you're actually helping them transition in a very humane way, and you get to share that final those final moments with them. And though it's hard, it's a lot easier to know that that you can get some closure on it by discussing it with your animal.
Yeah, and that is just such a tough situation. Like I said, unfortunately, many pet owners have had to go through that, and we have here ourselves, and it's very, very tough. And you do have this, you feel a little bit guilty about it.
Yeah, you do. But I think the key thing is that when you know it's the right time, the animal will let you know, and you just have to trust that, and you just have to honor that animal. And being there, it's just like humans, and being there at those last minutes and honoring that person and sharing those times together means the world. And I think it's the same thing with our pets. Us being there with them definitely shows that we honor them and that we love them, and I think it's the best you can do.
Yeah. Now, can especially say situations like that, or can anyone communicate with their pets like this, or do you feel it is a gift that is given to you, or can someone learn this ability?
Well, I think we all can connect and communicate at a much deeper level with our animals than perhaps what we do today. Will it open up as much as my gift does? I don't know. I really think this is a gift that I've been given, and my real purpose for being here is to give the animals a voice and to help people out. But I think we all can connect with them at a much deeper level. All we have to do is, first of all, quiet our minds and open our hearts, ask the questions, communicate with our animals, and most importantly, trust the information you're receiving back. Don't let that doubt or that questioning pop in. Just go with what you're receiving and know that it's real. And I think when you get to that point and you get to that trusting and knowing, then I think that you can actually connect with your animals at a much deeper level than you would even realize.
Now, I want to ask you kind of about a particular problem with our pet, Sweetie, and see if you have something that may make the situation better for us, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no problem.
And maybe other pet owners are having the same problem. And it's kind of I would say somewhat common. But like I said, Sweetie is a inside pet, and she does. We let her out to go to the restroom and whatnot. But at night, when everyone's in bed, she likes to go to the main living room and wet on the floor in the middle of the night. How can an owner deal with that situation to stop that from happening? And this is we let her out before we go to bed. It can be anywhere from 9 to 10 o'clock at night, and sometimes she even gets to go out at 5 o'clock in the morning when one of us gets up to go to work. But it still happens on a regular basis, almost no matter what how often we let her out.
Now, has it always happened, or is this something that's occurred over the past year or so?
I wouldn't say always happen. For at least a year or two, I would say.
Okay. And have you ever gotten her checked by the veterinarian to see if she has some sort of a bladder condition or a weak? Because I'm getting some. It feels like more of a medical thing to me.
Oh, okay. No, we haven't actually.
Okay, you may want to get that test. You may want to just get it checked out and tested out a little bit. Does she have a healthy appetite, and how does she deal with water? Does she drink adequate amounts quite a bit of water? How's that work?
No, I wouldn't say she drinks a lot of water. We keep her water bowl full, and I guess she drinks what she likes to out of it. But it's not like she's going through a bowl full of water a day or anything. Her diet is just regular dog food. She does get the treat of a hot dog, when she does come back inside from going out. So she, that's kind of the thing for me is she does get a reward for coming, for going out. She knows that she goes out to use the restroom. She comes back in, and there's a hot dog waiting for her.
Right. Okay. Well, to me, it feels more like it feels like some sort of how old is she now?
Oh, she's probably about 6 or 7 years old, approximately.
Not too old.
No.
It feels more like a weakened bladder type of thing to me, or something that it feels like a physical thing. I don't think it's life-threatening, but next time you take her in for an exam or something, you may want to take in a urine sample with you and have them double check to make sure that there's no
cloudiness or anything to do with the urinary tract. Could be some, could be a few things there. So I wouldn't go out of my way, but I would definitely get it checked out whenever you go back in again, because it just feels, from what she's sharing, it feels more like a physical thing to me. But the other thing you can do, obviously, is we go back to talking to the animals and trying to explain to them what the situation is and explain to them what they need to do about it, and ultimately why is it going to be a good thing. So you need to ask, tell her that you understand that sometimes she feels like she has to get up in the middle of the night and go to the potty, but what she needs to do instead is, if she really has to go, to let you know, and you'll be glad to let her out. And by doing this, this is going to make Daddy very happy. And you're explaining it to her in that fashion, to let her know that here's the situation, I understand it, but here's what I need you to do, and here's why you would want to do it. Here's why it's going to be a good thing. And you're actually verbalizing that, and you're visualizing that, and see if she starts coming around a little bit. It does feel a little physical to me, though, so maybe one of those things you want to check out. Maybe it's something where she just doesn't feel she can hold on to it. But at the very least, I definitely would talk to her in that fashion and see how the results turn out.
Okay, and someone in the chat room was asking what kind of dog Sweetie was, and she is a Feist, more of a, we call him a mountain Feist here in the mountains of North Carolina. So that's what she is. Nice little black and white, cute little mountain Feist. Sweet little dog. That's why she's called Sweetie.
Very cool, very cool, very unique.
Yeah, but yeah, we'll definitely have to have that checked out when she goes, because it is an ongoing problem, and like I said, it's almost every morning. If it, like I said, regardless of what time she goes out and whatnot, and in terms of a reward, is that a good thing to do with your pets? I mean, for them to have some type of reward for doing things, like in her case, it's a hot dog, for going out.
Well, I think rewarding them with small treats is a good thing. I don't know if necessarily hot dogs are the best thing for them, but
she loves them.
Well, I bet she does. So do I. But not necessarily things I can eat all the time. But I think it's one of those things where I always recommend that if you're going to be giving treats to the animal, and if you want to use it as a behavioral training tool, then I think that's perfectly acceptable. I would lean more towards healthy treats. There's some wonderful things that animals will love that we just don't think about giving to them all the time. So, for instance, one of the best treats out there is baby carrots. Those little washed, peeled carrots that come in those little bags at your local grocery store. Grab whenever you want to give a treat or a reward, give them one of those. Very healthy. They like the crunchiness of it. They like the taste, and it's much better for them. So little things like that, you can give your dogs, broccoli crowns. You can give them slices of apple. Make sure the apple is peeled, no cores, and definitely no seeds. But you can give them slices of apple. Not too much because they're high sugar content, but a little bit of apple as a treat here or there. Those type of things. Heck, we even have a pet rabbit that we give parsley and cilantro to every night.
Wow.
And the dogs love it too, so they get a little parsley and cilantro before they go to bed.
Wow.
So, and it's perfectly healthy for them, and it's a much better treat than something that's processed. And so, yeah, I'd say it's a good thing.
Well, and I asked, not trying to be humorous here or anything, but what about an onion? Because I've been cutting up an onion and it fall on the floor a piece, and quite honestly, Sweetie will just snatch that thing up. She likes them.
Okay. Well, bulb vegetables are not good for animals. So most people are bulby vegetables, and there's certain things you don't want to feed them. Things like avocados are not good for them. And but most of your greeneries, for the most part, anything that's green is a good thing for them. So green beans, sugar snap peas, those type of things are really good for them. They can eat things like squash. And this can be raw or canned or cooked. It's just if it's cooked, make sure it's not seasoned, and if it's canned, make sure it's low sodium, or you've rinsed the extra preservatives off of it. But those are wonderful things, and the cool thing about those type of vegetables is it's healthy for them. It's very filling, so you can actually get away with giving them less, and they feel more full. And the fiber content helps make their stool a lot firmer, so they actually will process it a lot better than they can with processed treats or processed food. So yeah, there's some wonderful things, and I've got some of this information on my website, wagging-tails, TALES.com. If you guys want to check it out, there's some bits on there about nutrition and some helpful links, useful links of businesses that we use their products and have had great deal of success with as well.
Now, I want to ask one more question, and if you don't mind, then sharing, maybe one more story from Wagging Tails, because we are getting close to the end of the show. I tell you, it just flies right by. It does. But the question I want to ask, and this is in terms of, a dog having, not just a dog, but any animal that tends to have a litter. A lot of times these litters are broken up very soon, very quickly. What kind of impact does that have on someone's pet? And especially if they have an animal that's pregnant now or whatever the case may be. Should you allow them to keep their litter for a certain amount of time, or what kind of effect does that have?
Well, I think it's one of those things where it probably has a little less impact early on than what we think it would, because they haven't formed that connection with each other. They'll have that connection as far as being siblings, but it's not like humans being siblings. They don't have that kind of connection early on. They tend to develop their relationships and understanding as they continue to mature and as they spend more time with each other. I definitely think that it should be explained. So if one of the puppies or kitties are being taken away from the litter and given to someone else, then it should be explained what the situation is and what they need to do and why it's going to be a good thing. It makes us feel better by doing that, and the animals do understand. But I think it has a little bit less impact the earlier on that we do it. Just as long as the animal's been properly weaned and is healthy, then I think it's something acceptable that we can do.
All right. Yeah. Share. Do you mind sharing one more story with us from your book, Wagging Tails?
Yeah, we had there's a wonderful story in there about Lucas the cat. Now, Lucas is one of 4 cats in the household, and they have a wonderful dog that sort of oversees everything by the name of Jake. And Jake, I went over the lady's house to handle a situation with Jake the dog, and Jake had been having some issues with the little neighbor boy. There's a little 4-year-old boy that had the habit of coming over to Jake's house unannounced and opening the door and walking right in the house, which Jake wasn't too fond of, and got in sort of a little nipping confrontation with the little boy. So we had to work with Jake to make him understand how he needs to handle the situation better, and also talk to the little child about how they should be doing things. But while I'm over there, Lucas the cat comes in the room and is persistent to have a conversation with me. So I opened up a channel, connected with Lucas to find out what's going on, and he kept sharing with me that he wasn't feeling well. He kept showing an area near his looked like his kidneys or liver area, and we kept connecting and asking questions, and I found out that it was really something with the kidneys. I felt the kidneys were off. I don't know if it was stones or some sort of infection, but I just felt it was off. So I asked the owner, what the situation was. How is he eating? She said, well, he seems to be eating fine. I said, how is everything else as far as using the litter box and everything? She said, well, it's hit or miss, but, it seems to be okay. And I said, well, I sure hate for you to go to the veterinarian and spend some money, but he's just showing this to me. It doesn't feel good to me. I think there's some kidney issues going on. When was the last time you had had him checked out? Had any blood work or urine work done? And she said, about 3 months ago. And some of the levels were a little off, but nothing extreme. And I said, well, I would recommend you get it checked again. It just doesn't feel right to me. So she took the cat to the veterinarian. The vet said, well, I don't think there's anything wrong. It's only been 3 months, but if you want to spend your money, I'll be glad to run the test. And lo and behold, they ran the test and came back, and the cat was in the early stages of kidney disease. And we caught it early on. It was identified early on. They changed his diet. They gave him some medication. And within a matter of weeks, he was back on track again, no more issues. And it's been over a year now, and he's still doing great. So, it's one of those things where, I'm not a veterinarian, but it's one of those situations where he shared it with me. I had the feeling, I had the sensation. He was showing me the area, and we were able to sort of narrow it down a little bit to give the veterinarian some guidance beforehand. And lo and behold, we got it nipped in the bud, and he's doing great. So it's one of those fun stories that sort of get you to think, too, that, wow, if we would let this go on, it could have gotten to be something that was much worse than what it ended up being.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, Tim, I've really appreciated you coming on the show tonight. These were some amazing stories and really a lot of information to take from it, as well. And, handling some situations with your pets and, just like, communicating with them more can lead to a healthier life for the pet and the owner as well. So it's great information.
Well, thank you very much. It was my pleasure sharing it with you, and I encourage everybody to take a look at the website, wagging-tails.com, to learn more about it, and obviously check out the book, Wagging Tails, Every Animal Has a Tail. It's I'm very pleased with how the book turned out, and I think you'll enjoy the time you spend reading it.
And one thing about the book that I think we haven't mentioned yet is that a portion of the proceeds, of all proceeds from the book, will be donated to animal rescue organizations as well.
Absolutely. I appreciate bringing that up. It's our chance to give back, so we're going to give a portion of the proceeds from the book. And we also do that with the business, so the individual consultations and things that I do, we give back to rescue organizations to help those animals find their right and perfect forever homes.
Mm-hmm. So now, if someone wants to get a consultation, then they could contact you through the website?
Yeah, absolutely. And we do consultations based on how many animals you have, what kind of questions you have, and we also have lost pet consultations as well. And so, check it out. And if you've got questions or you've got problems or challenges with your pets, then I'll be glad to help you out and see if we can get to the bottom of it by talking to them and figuring out what we need to do to help them out.
Sounds wonderful. And Tim, we have the folks in the chat room there wanting me to let you know thank you so much for coming on. They really enjoyed the show. Matter of fact, wants a round of applause from the chat room. So.
Oh, fantastic. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I appreciate them joining the chat room and listening in on the show tonight.
All right, wonderful. Again, Tim, thank you so much for joining us. Wagging-tails.com is the website. Hopefully they will check it out. All right, everyone. Well, that was Tim Link. Do check out the website, wagging-tails.com. The book, again, is Wagging Tails, Every Animal Has a Tail, Conversations with Our Animal Friends. And again, a portion of all proceeds from the book will be donated to animal rescue organizations. So, this will also help with the cause. So do make sure to check the book out. I have had the opportunity to read it myself, and there's some great stories in there. And like I said, there's tips in there in the books, and you can learn, how to communicate with your pet more effectively, and just learn how to have a healthier life with them. It's really an interesting book, I have to say. Don't forget, July the 2nd, that is going to be our official launch date for our new website for Shadows in the Dark. This website is really great. I think everyone is going to love it. There's whole new look and feel to it, a little more features on it. So again, July the 2nd for the launch date on that. Please look forward to that. You'll log on to shadowsinthedarkradio.com that day at some time, and bam, there it'll be. So once we get it going, we're going to launch our other two websites shortly after, which will be SM Radio International and the new Mysteries Magazine website. So, and of course, if you haven't subscribed to Mysteries Magazine, go to the web store and check it out. There's 1, 2, and 3 year subscriptions. And, of course, we are excited to now be the owners of Mysteries Magazine, if you're just now hearing the word about that. So it's, our first issue will be out in September. We're really looking forward to it. I think we're going to put out a great magazine for everyone. Mysteries Magazine has been out for about 7 years, but we're going to make it even better than what it is. So we are really, really looking forward to that. So if you haven't had a chance to check it out, you can do so. And Like I said, you can order one of the back issues. Right now they're on sale for $3 a piece. So we're having a back issue blowout, if you want to call it that. So, more than welcome to order a back issue for $3. Check out the magazine, and then when you look at it, just imagine, wow, it's going to be a lot better than that. So at least we hope it's going to be. But now this Sunday is Father's Day, so we're not going to be broadcasting. I have really got to get back to taking some of the holidays off like we used to do in the past. And plus, I'm a father of 4, as we mentioned, so it is Father's Day. We're going to go out, celebrate with the kids, things like that. We're going to see what great gifts they got their daddy. So we won't be broadcasting Sunday, but we will be back on Thursday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, so make sure to check us out then. So again, thanks everybody for tuning in, and thanks to Tim Link for joining us. Again, that website is wagging-tails.com. The book is Wagging Tails, Every Animal Has a Tail. Do check it out, because again, the proceeds do go to a great cause, animal rescue organizations. So thanks everybody. This has been Shadows in the Dark, where the darkness is illuminated. Good night, everyone.
Shadows in the dark.